leave their existence to chance. And I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Come on, everybody get together. We're in danger. We're in danger. No way. It's just so funny. But the thing is that they are putting this climate clock out there as if it's the nuclear doomsday clock. And they roll out the doomsday clock for us every couple of months. They say, "Oh, we have inched 30 seconds closer to midnight," and midnight is very, very scary because midnight means nuclear war. Which is what makes all this very ironic, is because that while they are pretending they're rolling out a new doomsday clock, they're completely trying to get us into a nuclear altercation on a global scale with that fraud. With that fraud of a war. I mean, it's a real war. It's just that the circumstances surrounding it and the way it's being described and its origins are fraudulent in Ukraine. So that doomsday clock, never mind. They will actually want us to bring us to that threshold and push us through the doorway. But this fake climate doomsday, that one is new, and we're only 6 years away, even though we've been 6 to 10 years away from that for the last 30 years. At least then I've been alive. I remember going into kindergarten in 1990, and we would hear all the stuff about the ozone layer. There's a hole in the ozone layer, and there was pictures of the hole too. Obviously, it's all animated. This kind of light blue, whitish blue atmosphere encasing the earth, and then there's this gaping hole in the middle of it. Like, oh, I hope that we're not under the hole part, because now all those UV rays are going to come through and burn us up. So we've been getting that shit our whole lives, and for some people the programming took better than others. But tonight will be another show that's all about programming. I want to thank my sponsors for sticking with me into the month of July. Got a great number of friends on the affiliates page on quitefrankly.tv, and chief among them is Blue Monster Prep. Go check them out, especially in the summertime. Summertime and the dead of winter. That is when resources can become strained. That is when all of your power can become strained. Everybody's trying to leech off of the same sources, and it's always good to have backup if the lights go out. Backup in every way, shape, or form, from communication to first aid. So go check them out, BlueMonsterPrep.com. Promo code Frankly, and Pat and Gina at Blue Monster are always good for a phone call. Go really talk to them. Tomorrow night's going to be great. We have a man named Walter Zollner on the show. He's a travel vlogger. I'm going to tell you all about him tomorrow. And I think it's a cinematographer. I want to see what he describes himself as, because it's just brilliant work, but you can tell that there's a passion that just lives in this man, and he wants to be outside. He wants to be in different places. And I want to talk about all the different places he's been, the places he wants to go. And perhaps that'll allow us to get some calls in from you guys and gals tomorrow to share stories of the most beautiful, breathtakingly beautiful places you've ever seen on the planet. Especially if it's in this country, because there's so much to see in this country. We've got all climates, all sights and sounds, every landform you can think of is covered in this country. So I'd love to draw you all into that conversation tomorrow. And Walter's going to be in studio, so that's great. He's traveling in from Pennsylvania. Can't wait to have him here, and we'll watch some of his greatest hits, talk about life, and bring you guys along for the ride. All right. Let's do this then. Let's just jump right into the grab bag. The first one up is a little bit on the personal life of Bill de Blasio, the doofiest bastard who was ever in a position of prominence in New York City. He's such a tall, doofy bastard. Apparently, he and that troll of a wife of his are getting divorced. And this is all public. They're writing about it, that he and his wife, 30 years getting divorced, that they're going to stay in the same house for the time being while they see other people, though. It'll be her seeing other people. It's going to be him listening through the wall. And then it went into a whole side piece about how, she was a lesbian when he met her, and so she's probably going to go back to doing that a little bit. Like I don't know, like it's finger painting or something. It's just so crazy. It's so crazy, but so appropriate, especially for a guy. I knew this was his life. I knew that he lived a life of pretty much an indentured servant. And then again, remember this man. Remember, this is the man that we watched throughout 2020, 2021. This was during the vaccine push. Remember this?
Did you say free fries when you get vaccinated? You're saying I could get this? These delicious fries? Wait a minute. But there's also a burger element to this? But if this is appealing to you, just think of this when you think of vaccination. Vaccination. We're going to keep rolling out incentives. We're going to keep making it easy.
Do you think that do you believe that this man really? Do you think a man like this really was ever going to be in a serious marriage? Of course it was a marriage of convenience. With his shaking hands, he's nibbling. To hear him talking through that, I hate his mouth sounds. Nibbling through some limp, cold French fries. First thing in the morning. This was a morning press conference. Nibbling through cold French fries in the morning to get people to take this, and then going on to a burger. Oh, you mean there's a burger element to this? You do deserve to slap right across the doofy face. Slap across the face. Every time he walks into a room, he should get a slap across the face. But I guess that's just the way that he's always lived. It's apparent that that's really what his private life is all about too. One slap after another. And I don't know. You know what's worse? That there's somebody out there who traded in their DNA, sacrificed their DNA for French fries. That's even worse when you think about it. Somebody went and bargained. They bargained their DNA for some French fries. Good Lord. Good Lord. All right. Zero Hedge. RFK Jr. decries Biden's administration's withholding of some JFK assassination records. So, no longer. It's going to be postponed again. On the afternoon of Friday, before arguably one of the busiest holiday weekends in America, the Biden administration issued a memo announcing that due to national security, it was going to postpone the release of certain classified documents relevant to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Now, people can say, well, the question is being asked even by RFK, so I guess we'll get to that. Despite the quiet announcement on the eve of July 4th weekend, it sparked outrage led by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has in recent times openly speculated that the Central Intelligence Agency was behind his uncle's assassination and that he could be in danger from the agency. In a barrage of Twitter posts, Kennedy, who is gaining momentum against Joe Biden for the 2024 Democratic nomination for president, suggested a cover-up. Quote, "The assassination was 60 years ago. What national security secrets could possibly be at risk? What are they hiding?" It's not necessarily secrets. It's not necessarily secrets. It's, to me, if I were to speculate, it's the fact that the security of the nation that was born from that sacrifice is what's at risk. People realizing that this is not real. Before Kennedy, we were a true Republican form of government, and I'm not talking party. Republican Party, but the true and purest Republican form of government had already been out of style for generations in this country by 1963. But I think that that's the real thing. When you say national security secrets or national security issues, the reasons of national security, as Kathy O'Brien would say, what are those reasons for national security? That we can't talk about an assassination of a president over 60 years ago. And the most the most obvious answer to that is that it really gives you an inside view into what the country actually is. I mean, there was that was a coming out party for the new nation and those who actually control it. And those people, I mean, obviously it's a couple of generations later, and there's a lot of different vested interests, and a lot of them are not even American, but it's a couple of generations later, and that machine is still in place. That's what it is. So he blasted Biden for choosing the timing to cover up the bad news he would be maintaining secrecy indefinitely on JFK assassination records. Kennedy charged that the postponement was an unlawful violation of President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992, which mandated the release of all government-held JFK assassination records no later than October of 2017, which in itself is suspect because you can tell they're just giving certain people time to die. The records have been kept with the National Archives and Records Administration, NARA. The deadline to release JFK assassination documents has been repeatedly extended, including under the Trump administration. Now, my question to you guys and gals, and I think I've asked this of you quite a few times, is that is there really, do you think that any real documentation of the truth, the nuts and bolts of an operation like taking out the president of the United States and all of the people who were contracted to help out? I mean, there's a lot that has to get done there, including the way that the media was brought into the fray. I mean, Operation Mockingbird started in the 50s. So intelligence was all up in every major newsroom in the country about almost a decade before Kennedy was even killed. So, I mean, how much of that was really documented? I just don't understand. I'm sure there's plenty in there that's there's plenty in there that's newsworthy. But I'm almost like, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense that stuff like that would really be preserved. I'm sure there's plenty of information that would be preserved that would give us stronger. I don't know. You know what I mean? Does anybody else out there ever think about that stuff? Like, why would they ever really preserve anything like that? But I wonder what's there, because according to Roger Stone, when he spoke to Donald Trump, Jack Posobiec did a show with Roger Stone recently. He said Stone says Trump told him the JFK files were horrible. Now, what does horrible mean? Maybe one day we know. He said Trump said the intelligence agencies don't want them released because it'll probably expose sources and methods. Yawn. Trump did release roughly 80% of the documents, and we found out some shocking things. For example, Lee Harvey Oswald had gotten a, 1099 from the FBI. That's because he had been on their payroll. He was an informant. Lee Harvey Oswald had attended the foreign language school that is run by the Central Intelligence Agency in North Carolina. That's how he learned to speak Russian. See, that's what I'm talking about. Things like that I can see. Things that will make so much more of the official story seem implausible. But as far as the play-by-play, I can't imagine that any of the most important pieces of the puzzle are going to be documented and kept in a dossier somewhere at all. We learned about President Lyndon Johnson's early membership in the Ku Klux Klan. This is a guy who said through his policies that are being extended today that he would have black Americans voting Democrat for the next 200 years, although he didn't refer to them as black Americans, if you know what I mean. Hard R N-word, by the way. That was among the documents that were included in there, so that's a lot of stuff that historians poured through. There was a lot of interesting data, but even Trump held back 20% of the documents. When I had the occasion to ask him about that, I said, why didn't you let it all out? He said, I can't tell you. It's so horrible you wouldn't believe it. Someday you'll find out all about it. The sum total of it, he didn't want to talk about it. He kicked the can down the road. It was so horrible. If it was so horrible, then What the hell, man? Especially if you know that any of that could be pointed at you. So, JFK back in the news again today, and it is 60 years come November. The decades keep flying by. Here's a little something for you. Actually, we'll do this right after the break. I got a lot of grab bag stuff, a lot of news in the first half. Hopefully, we'll have some time for some calls. I want to talk about this Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, these rumors, the threats, all that stuff. There was an anon on the boards a couple of days ago that was talking about what's coming. It could be a LARP. But things like this have a lot of credit and a lot of credence for me because, again, what are we building toward? That's the big question. With all the denials about how badly the war is going for NATO working through Ukraine as a proxy arm, where is it all heading? Where is it all heading? You gotta have to imagine there's going to be some big pop-off point that is going to they want or they hope that Russia would have to act and do something bigger and outside the bounds of this regional conflict as of right now. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Second half, Jim Lee to talk about the latest overtures in the climate insanity. And I hope I can take some calls from you. Remember, until the end of the week, I'm going to be raffling off Shoeless Joe, my copy of the book club that we just completed with Charlie Robinson in the month of June. That's going to be on Friday. Wonderful book. I love this one. Inside of it is all of Matt's submersible survival tips. That'll be on Friday. So if you send a, quite frankly, superchat.com super chat from now until about noon on Friday, you'll be in the running. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
I'm a little weenie looking for a bun, just a teeny weeny itty bitty one. If I keep on cooking, I'll be overdone. Pickle and onion, hot dog. Get out of here! What was that?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!
Certainly is summer. Certainly is summer. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm glad that you were able to make it. I feel like it's the second Monday of the week. And very odd because tomorrow is Thursday, so the week's already over. But this is why I love having holidays break up the middle of the week. I love it. I think the week goes by so fast, and it actually forces you to chill out. Like Monday, there's no set rules over here, but I just know what usually feels right. And more often than not, Monday nights are usually a little bit of a news roundup, thoughts from the weekend. You know, sometimes we'll have special topics, special guests, whatever. Always reserve the right to do something different. But a day before a holiday almost like forces you or gives you permission to do something off topic and something chill. And I really enjoyed Monday night's stroll through the park with you guys. All right, so listen to this. This is from the Associated Press? Yes, the AP. Very, very disturbing stuff. Very disturbing. Headline: Conservatives go to red states and liberals go to blue states as the country grows more polarized. Once he and his wife, Jennifer, moved to Boise suburb last year, Tim Cole could finally express himself. Cole did what the couple never dared at their previous house in Los Angeles. The newly retired Los Angeles police officer flew a U.S. flag and a thin blue line banner representing law enforcement outside of his house in Idaho. We were scared to put it up, Jennifer Cole acknowledged, but the Coles knew they had moved to the right place when neighbors complimented him on the display. Leah Dean is on the opposite end of the political spectrum, but she knows how the Coles feel. In Texas, Dean had been scared to fly an abortion rights banner outside of her house. Oh, can you imagine? And that's not my bias being triggered. That's just like, I mean, I guess in a way, but can you imagine that? An abortion rights flag, a flag to let everybody know what you feel about terminating unborn baby. How is that even political? That is just something else. I don't know how that's political. The American flag, I wouldn't fly a thin blue line flag. I don't think, but some people that's their circle and stuff. But man, that's just. Anyway, around the time the Coles were house hunting in Idaho, she and her partner found a place in Denver where their LGBTQ plus pride flag flies above the banner in front of their house that proclaims abortion access is a community responsibility. Oh, God. One thing we have really found is a place to feel comfortable being ourselves, Dean said. Americans are segregating by their politics at a rapid clip, helping fuel the greatest divide between the states in modern history. Oh, there they are. There she is. All right. Good. Great. Anyway, here's the thing. It's totally fine. The whole political divide thing, it's totally fine. You see, there was a time not too long ago when it would have never occurred. I mean, at least in this country, but especially in a European sense, would it have ever occurred to somebody to complain that Europe was becoming too polarized because all the Italians were in Italy and all the French were in France? Now, I know that that's not the case now. They don't want Italians and French to belong to anywhere. It's all supposed to be one big, it used to be a fruit basket. Now it's just a big shit smoothie. And that's what they want. But that would never in the past have ever really occurred to anybody to speak that way about polarization, for just being around people that you are, you feel a kinship with, that there is a local culture that you feel drawn to and all that other stuff. But it's precisely how we're supposed to be over here in the United States. It's only a condition of the mind in the U.S. for us to fear ideological balkanization on a state-by-state level, because ideological balkanization of the states will eventually dictate in some way, shape, or form how all of this illegally centralized power in Washington, D.C. is used, not only domestically, but abroad as well. That's the whole thing there. As long as Washington, D.C. gets dismantled, everything else will take care of itself. It'll work itself out. Dare I say, distance makes the heart grow fonder. And perhaps even a little bit more sober. I mean, then all these progressives, they can go to blue states and they can go broke locally. They can implode their local economies and actually have to own their mistakes, because there's not anybody there to front the bill, and there's not anybody there denying them the money that they want to raise for one, pie in the sky idea over the other. It's a very sobering thing. You would find I say it all the time, you would find blue states getting more conservative without even knowing that they're getting conservative, because all of a sudden they realize they can't steal and sap away from other places, from money that is being collected in taxes from other states that they don't like, or from a central bank that is just taking loans out and redistributing it. So I think it's great. As long as DC gets dismantled, that would be wonderful. It's the best thing. It's the best, most peaceful thing that anyone could order up for our union at this point in the decay. If you wanted to find a way to actually stimulate growth, to refertilize, to just enrich the soil again, so that something perhaps could take root, some rejuvenation. If you wanted to find a way to do that with the least amount of trouble, with the least amount of violence, it would be that. It really would be, which is, of course, why it is seen as a looming disaster that needs to be warned against by people who want the United States to be destroyed once and for all. That's really what it all comes down to. Here's another little something I have for you. This is from France. Well, it's from the Gateway Pundit about France. After 1,000 buildings burnt, 5,600 vehicles destroyed, 3,300 arrests, the government vows to crack down on free speech. 89% of Frenchmen condemns the violence committed against security forces, leaving left-wing riot apologists in the tiny minority. A man was killed by a flashbang grenade in Marseille. I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry. The GoFundMe for the police officer involved in the deadly shooting of Nahel M reached 1.6 million euro. The Macron government proposed cracking down on free speech instead of the rioters. So that's kind of what was being proposed at the end of the week. We did a little bit on Monday, but the end of the week last week. And then Monday we were talking about it. They were already discussing censorship because, of course, it wasn't really that bad. It was just being, it wasn't a good situation. It was just being inflamed by social media. Well, what was being inflamed? A certain group of people was getting triggered. More and more. So there you have it. Here's a email that I got from a friend of ours in France. It said, "Hey Frank, great show last night. Great callers, great stories. The national anthem and the high rise at the end got me misty-eyed. Just want to give you a little update from the land of the frogs. The left has been predictably supporting the riots. Jean-Luc Mélenchon, I don't know how to say that, the leader of the extreme left party, he's basically a communist. He came in first among the left candidates last year in the first round of the presidential election, but third overall behind Macron and Marine Le Pen. He has been openly calling for a continuation of violence. Surprise, surprise. My tinfoil hat friends all agree with me that the supposed killing of the 17-year-old boy was staged one way or another, and that the very rapid riots and looting that followed immediately afterward the incident was well organized by the usual suspects. I watched the interview with the lawyer representing the cop who shot the boy. He claims that the cop refutes categorically that he muttered, 'Get out or I'll shoot you in the head' to Nahel. Nahel. That's the boy's name. Boy, 17 years old. Rap sheet the length of the Statue of Liberty. The thing is, there is only one video of the two cops wearing helmets, one of them pointing a gun, so we can't know if that audio was layered into the video or not. But the officer denies it. The liberals are predictably losing their shit, screaming about France's past colonialism in Africa, present racism in France, and that anybody in Africa has the right to enter France and receive aid to improve their lot in life. Holy crap. I had a big argument with a woke photographer friend who called me a reactionary racist for pointing out that slavery has existed everywhere in the world. Black tribal leaders had rounded up their own people to sell to the Europeans, the Arabic, and the Jewish slave traders, and that anybody should be allowed to immigrate as long as the host country can receive the immigrants after vetting and ensuring that the economic and cultural considerations are made for the host country. My friend didn't want to hear any of that. He just shouted that, quote, France will get its comeuppance, and what a great thing that is. Can you imagine wanting to be sacked, looted, raped, and destroyed because you have been made to believe you deserve it? That you've been made to believe that you were the slaver at one, but you were the something or other. So it's never about being able to separate government that doesn't represent a people and is going around the world gallivanting and making a mess of everybody else's homes and ingratiating and enriching itself while you're even neglecting your own citizens at home who are footing the fucking bill. Excuse my French. But to take all of that responsibility on yourself, what a disgrace. What a disgrace. And I know, hey, listen, to have that articulated The reason why it just gets me so much is because I can see that being expressed. And I can see that kind of that mentality just all over the place. I mean, we see it every time a national holiday rolls around in the fourth quarter. Whatever, Columbus Day, that won't be for much longer. Thanksgiving, it's the same old thing. People telling you, no, don't celebrate, mourn, self-flagellate. It's crazy, just crazy. So yeah, then my main thoughts from Monday are pretty much unchanged on this. The problem with France, as well as many other countries in the West, is both the migrants, who never had a shot of assimilating, and just by merit of them being there is just, and the state, the migrants and the state. The state knew damn well what the arrival of the migrants meant for the future of the so-called democracies that they all love so much that they'll do anything to preserve, including destroy it. They'll destroy all their democracies to preserve it, don't you know? These people are nuts. If you got them in your life, you know, there's no talking to them. You got to kind of like hope that you when you're hanging out with certain people now, that that menial, trivial things are all you're discussing. And even that only lasts so long because it's tiring. It's tiring to pretend to be interested in dumb shit. Sometimes just the mood strikes and you can just really just vibe out with people. But when you realize that you can't talk about anything meaningful because a certain person or a group is going to shut down and just their minds are just going to drift away into another dimension, that is exhausting. Really exhausting. Got plenty of those around me. But yeah. Now over here we had some cocaine that was found in the West Wing of the White House. Here's the headline. Secret Service confirms cocaine was found in the West Wing phone cubby hours after Hunter Biden's visit. The puzzle, wrapped in an enigma inside of a bag of blow surrounding the mystery cocaine found in the White House, is drawing in some of the world's most cunning detectives and brilliant minds. One day after leaked radio intercepts revealed that a mystery substance was found over the weekend inside the White House, and after leading to a brief evacuation over hazmat fears, was cocaine-like. The U.S. Secret Service on Wednesday confirmed what everyone already knew. The powdery substance found inside the White House over the weekend is cocaine, not anthrax. While little new was revealed, a Secret Security spokesman, Anthony Guglielmi, said the cocaine was discovered in an area of the West Wing lobby where individuals can store their phones. The lobby is a heavily traveled area regularly accessed by both visitors and staff, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said on Wednesday. Let's see what she has to say.
If the Secret Service determines who brought the cocaine into the White House, does the White House support the prosecution of this individual?
I'm just not going to get into hypotheticals from here. Let the Secret Service do their job. It's under their purview. We are confident that they'll get to the bottom of it. I'm just not going to get ahead of this right this time.
Yeah, you can't get ahead of it because, of course, if it's somebody we know, they will not be prosecuted. If it's somebody we know, if it's just some poor schmuck who won a West Wing tour in a call-in contest on a local radio show in D.C., yes, we will rip their assholes out. They will have their asses ripped out. That's how badly they will be punished. If it's somebody we know or somebody's kid, I mean, obviously there has to be an excuse, a reasonable explanation as to why this could have happened. As she said, blinking with her eyes already closed. I don't know how she does it. Look at this.
And secondly, per the intrigue over the holiday, can you give any more details on where the Secret Service found the cocaine in the West Wing and how it got there?
So, as you know, this is under the purview of the Secret Service. They are currently investigating.
Look at you see the eyes?
What happened over the weekend, so I would have to refer you to the Secret Service on all of this.
Okay, well they found it. I would say, okay, well, yeah, well it's cocaine. Now what?
One thing that I can share that I'll share a little bit more information. As you know, the president and the first lady and their family were
They love doing blow together. So, it could just be
not here this weekend, as you all reported on this, and as you also know that they left on Friday and returned just yesterday.
And they have never been known to leave their Coke behind. They're very, very, very watchful. They love it. They don't share. So we just don't think that it's possible. It could be them. All right, so you can call in about all of your favorite cocaine stories later on if you have any, and especially if you have any cocaine. If Hunter Biden's out there, you can call in as well too. I have some lines set up. I only have one specialty line set up on the Gilded right now. There's the first-time caller line. There's the international call line, and there's also a tell a joke line. If Hunter Biden is in the audience, please go to the Gilded, quite frankly Gilded, and jump into the on-air calls, and there is a tell a joke line. Jump into the joke line, and I will know it's you, Hunter. We just want to see if it's you and what's going on there. So you can jump in at any time. All right, now I want to jump over to another little soundbite or a short clip that we got from Valuetainment. Patrick Bet-David, he had Douglas MacGregor on his show recently, and he made some really interesting comments about the 2024 election that mirrors a lot of what I've been talking about over here and asking you guys and gals, especially before 2022, was there going to be a 2022 election? And when do you think they're finally going to pull the plug on elections? When is it going to be halted? I said, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You know it. We're going to live to see it. There's going to be some kind of a delay of an election. The things are not going well for them. The public is not being really retained. They don't have a lot of support. The message is getting lost in the media. And there's only so many ways that you can mask the kind of bullshit that goes on election night, election week, election month now. It's getting too obvious. So what's going to go on? And where they want to take the world and how important places like the United States is for changing a tide change in the world, where the hell do you think that they are going to actually allow us to have any kind of meaningful way of determining the direction that we go in? There's going to be something that just makes it a moot point about our consent at some point. Doug MacGregor thinks that 2024 isn't going to happen. It's just a theory of his. But listen to this. I thought it was really interesting.
You're absolutely right. I don't think we'll ever get to the 2024 election.
Okay, now let me tell you this real quick. Before we got to this point, why they were talking about this, Patrick Bet-David was going over his own theories about what may be going on with Donald Trump and all of these hidden cameras and how likely it was that any of this lawfare and any of this stuff that they're doing to try to take Trump out was going to work if he was going to be the candidate, the nominee for the Republican Party, if he was going to survive even that phase. So he was just asking about candidacy and the nomination, not even just whether or not he was going to be able to win 2024. And then Doug MacGregor made that comment right there. Here it is.
First of all, I think it's brilliant. And I think that if we were living in a linear world, in other words, where one event follows the next logically, you're absolutely right. I don't think we'll ever get to the 2024 election. I think things are going to implode in Washington before then. I think our economic financial condition is fragile. It's going to come home to roost in ugly ways. I will tell you, I don't know exactly how it will happen. I think we're going to end up in a situation where we find out the banks are closed for 2 or 3 weeks and nobody can get into them.
You think so?
I think we're going to run into something like that, yeah. I also think that the levels of violence and criminality in our cities is so high that it's going to spill over into other places in society. People that normally think they can live remote from the problem are now beginning to be touched by the problem. Then I look at this thing in Ukraine. I think Ukraine is going to lose catastrophically. It's going to be a complete collapse. And that, too, is going to have an effect here at home because people are going to say, well, wait a minute. Everybody told us Ukraine was winning. Everybody told us X, Y, and Z. I mean, sort of the Russian hoax on steroids. All of those things are going to come together or converge in some way that's going to prevent us from reaching, the status quo. Oh, another election. Oh, another set of campaigns and so forth. So what you're saying to me is eminently plausible because I don't think Biden will make it through the year. I think he'll be gone. And I think everybody knows that this person, Kamala Harris, lacks the ability under any circumstances to be president of the United States.
When you say gone, you mean passing away because of his age or merely being incapable and finally being, what is that? What do they call it? 25th Amendment or whatever it is?
Shuffled off the stage. I think
they'll save face, though. They'll do it in a way to save face.
Exactly.
Sure.
I think
that's what
Patrick,
you're speaking of, right?
Yeah. I think what Patrick wrote is accurate. Something like that will happen. And then the search begins, and Newsom is the logical candidate for them. He's presiding over California, which is their poster child for the future of America. If you want to know what the Democrats want America to become, look at California. How deeply in debt is California? What's the state of affairs in that country of its own? It's a catastrophe. Everyone who can leave that has any talent, ability, or understanding is leaving. Businesses are leaving. No one wants to be there. So what are you going to end up with? A very small minority of very wealthy people and millions of poor people, most of whom don't even consider themselves to be Americans.
And that's a really good point. Always a good conversation when you follow Doug MacGregor around. I usually do, as you all know, and I also love Valuetainment and Patrick Bet-David's work too. But that's now. First of all, like I said, that started off talking about this whole thing with the Milley tapes, whether it's being used to eliminate Donald Trump as a candidate or not. First on the Iran strike, that whole aspect about the Iran strike that they wanted to try to get Donald Trump involved in, and Colonel MacGregor brought up the whole situation with the downed drone. That we were all like, please, don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. That they wanted him to start bombing Iran because of a downed unmanned vehicle. So we went all the way past that. And of course, there's the other thing there too, which is, again, just so incredible, just like with the DNC leaks or the Podesta leaks or anything else like that, where you get some sort of a real, authentic view, even just for a moment, an authentic view into how the world is run or how this country is run in particular, and then the world after that. The focus is always on whether or not someone discussing a heinous plan to start another destructive war or one thing or another, whether or not them discussing it is illegal or not the plan itself. They hate people who show other people the truth. They hate people that show the public the truth. And they obviously hate people who hate war. And that's the big thing there. But, what about a nuke delay? Something. How about that to delay an election? A war that obviously they want to be able to escalate, because there's only one way of getting outside the bounds of a major escalation, and that is to admit that the war is lost. And do you see that happening? So I don't know. And then there's this. This is from NPR a little bit earlier on today. Tell me where the messaging is getting crossed on this one. Ukraine Zelensky warning of possible Russian sabotage at a nuclear plant. Ukraine's President Zelensky said Russian forces have placed devices resembling explosives on the roofs of nuclear reactors at a power plant they control in southeastern Ukraine. Zelensky made the alarming claim in his nightly video address late Tuesday, adding that he believes the Russians may soon sabotage the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and blame Ukraine. Why? Don't know. Again, why did Assad gas his people? Why did he have to? Don't know. We have information from our intelligence that Russian military has placed objects similar to explosives on the roof of several power units, Zelensky said, perhaps to simulate An attack on the plant, perhaps they have some other scenario, he said, but in any case, the world sees and cannot help but see that the only source of danger to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is Russia and no one else. I wonder if Victoria Nuland wrote that line for him herself. That's exactly the exchange she had with Marco Rubio. When Rubio said, if some kind of a biological incident happens or a weapon of mass destruction, is there any chance that it could be anybody except Russia? And she goes, no, Mr. Senator, it's classic Russia to do something and blame it on someone else. Classic Russia. That's it. Classic Russia, and they're so bad at this whole geopolitical war game that they never change up their strategies. It's like they can't change. It's them. It's their calling card. They're like the wet bandits from Home Alone. They can't change. They need everybody to know. The Zaporizhia plant is one of the largest in Europe with 6 nuclear reactors. Ukrainian officials said that the possible explosive devices have been placed on top of the number 3 and number 4 reactors. Russia, in turn, claims Ukraine is planning military action against a nuclear facility, which I actually believe there is far more reason to believe that than anything else. Russia doesn't need to do this kind of stuff. The only people who believe they need to do this kind of stuff are those who have been made to believe that Russia has been losing since the beginning and are just utterly decimated and demoralized and desperate. I mean, how many forms of cancer does Putin have right now? He has been dying from several terminal cancer diagnoses for the last year or so. So, I mean, it's just all nonsense. War Clandestine on Twitter. I always enjoy his takes on things. He popped this out a couple hours later. The International Atomic Energy Agency, a UN nuclear watchdog, has been monitoring the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant for months at the request of Russia. Today, they report there is no evidence of planted explosives at ZNPP. Essentially, the UN said that Zelensky is full of shit, which is incredible. Well, because like I said, where is the messaging mix-up there? For the UN to be rebuffing, obviously there's a little bit more going on here. So there's that. Now, days ago, like I said, just some lurker on 4chan threw this out on the 2nd. This was on Sunday, and it had gotten around. Some people put it into the guild that I had set it aside just in case we see what's going on here. But today's the big day because they're talking about eastward winds and all that. Listen to this. You take it for what you like, because the time to know whether or not it's bullshit or if the puppet masters are changing their game plan up a little bit. Said this. Please view ASAP worldwide threat. I am a lurker. I will get straight to the point. This is not a happening. This is not a happening thread. This is 100% real. On July 4th or 5th, the United States will bomb the Zaporizhia power plant located near the city of Enerhodar. I don't know how to say it. In southern Ukraine. I don't care anymore and will be 100% honest with you guys. I'm a Marine Corps infantry veteran who is now working for the United States government in electronic espionage and have been for the last 5 years. The Ukrainian government and the United States government are working together in order to bomb the Zaporizhia plant and blame the nuclear meltdown on Russia, thus giving us immediate authority to use tactical nuclear warheads on Moscow, Kazan, Omsk, and other places. This will trigger the Russians to throw everything they have back at the United States. Thunderstorms are likely in Ukraine on the 4th, so that is the only reason it may be pushed to the 5th. You have 72 hours maximum to prepare for nuclear war. Hopefully 96 of the Russians are slow to respond, and we have all been told to stay home. We've been given $15,000 bonuses each to buy survival supplies if necessary, and our offices in Yorkville, Virginia have been closed down permanently. So this is a definite, not a conspiracy theory. Please prepare, guys. Love you all. I'll happily reply to any questions you have. Now, only because of the date, threw that out there on the 2nd. But, the 4th went by without incident. There's today. And the only other reason why you bring it up is because how else is this thing going to be triggered to the next level? How else? I don't know. And again, the irony of all of this saber rattling and how backed up against the wall where there's really nothing else to do, it's really shit or get off the pot time. The fact that we have a doomsday clock that is supposedly measuring how close we are to some sort of a nuclear holocaust, and that every couple of months that would be rolled out and some idiot, some Rhodes scholar would tick the minute hand or the second hand like a 30 more seconds closer to midnight, and we all get, oh no, we're getting closer to annihilation. Well, that hasn't been happening lately. You'd think that it would happen now, but they're not doing anything with that clock. They have rolled out a new clock. It is a climate clock to let us all know how many years we are away from annihilation, which, with all this going on in Ukraine, you say, what the hell, 6 years? That would be a blessing to know that we even have 6 years left. To hell with it. That would be wonderful. I'll take it. Thank you so much. All right, let's see here. I'm going to go on a really quick break, and then we're going to take your calls. So don't go anywhere. Call 914-200-0269. 914-200-0269. We'll get right back to you.
Throw your sandwich at the bus driver. Do it, John.
Hey, who threw that?
I'll turn this damn bus around. That'll end your precious little field trip pretty damn quick, huh? Shit. Hey, I'm trying to score points with a teacher today. Don't screw it up.
It says if the history of the planet was represented by the Empire State Building, the time that human beings have been on Earth would only be a postage stamp at the very top. You realize how insignificant that makes us? I don't feel that way.
I love QFTV.
Yep, you're cool.
What's up? I love QFTV.
Yep, you're cool.
What's QFTV?
Did you say what's QFTV? Miss, you're gonna need to go over there and watch QFTV Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, right after Quite Frankly.
Yeah.
Oh, you're definitely cool. Only on QuiteFrankly.tv, powered by Foxhole.
All right, 914-200-0269. We could take a couple of calls. Before we go on the intermission. And then we bring Jim Lee on for around 8:20. So what do you got for me? You can talk about this. You can talk about cocaine. Cocaine Gate. What do you think it was? Who do you think? That's the other thing there, too. The first thing that comes to mind is the Bidens, because, the family's got substance abuse problems. They've got behavioral addictions of all types. And who knows, especially the kids, after growing up in around that kind of a father and all of his friends, this substance abuse is probably a great way to disassociate from all the trauma that they went through. So, it's just one of those knee-jerk reactions. Everybody's thinking about Hunter because, millions of people in this country and around the world have seen him smoke crack with hookers of all ages in the last couple of years, and it's just, all right, it's like a name association now. You think of cocaine and crack, you think of the Bidens, unfortunately, but whatever. The other thing there is that it's the White House. It's Washington, D.C. Most of Wall Street must work off of cocaine. You remember when Kathy O'Brien came on and I asked her about cocaine, where I think I asked her about who was what the hell's his name again? The congressman that just left. He was in a wheelchair. I forget. And he was talking about all the parties, the orgies he was... Anyway, somebody's probably reminding me, and I'll see it later. He was talking about all of the kind of drug and sex parties he was invited to in D.C. And that was a big, bipartisan, absolutely not, this doesn't happen, boo, 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 boo this boy, boo this boy. And then all of a sudden he's gone. But I asked Kathy O'Brien about that, I remember. And she said, because it's all party line, I think the question was somewhere around the area of, isn't it interesting that there is no break in party allegiance here, that both parties are linking arms to deny that this kind of stuff happens, and to denounce the congressman, who the hell, what's his name? Madison Cawthorn. Yeah, Madison Cawthorn. I said, isn't that interesting, Kathy, that both parties are kind of linking arms to denounce these claims made by Madison Cawthorn about these parties of the sex and drug persuasion. And what did Kathy say? She said, Frank, the only party lines in D.C. are cocaine lines. And I thought that was a great quote. Great quote. So when this news was made over the weekend, I said, it just reminded me of Kathy. All right, let's take a call with Joseph. What's going on, Joseph?
Hey, Frank. I went and saw that movie, Sound of Freedom.
How'd you like it?
It was great.
I was going to ask people about it. Now, without spoiling it for people, what kind of feelings
I'll give you the experience.
Yeah, go ahead. Experience.
The theater was completely packed. People had their kids sitting on their lap, like 12 years old or something, sitting on their lap, watching it. The staff stood behind where the wheelchairs sit and watched the movie, standing up. When the movie theater was completely silent the entire time. When we got outside, I didn't know anybody there. I didn't go with anybody. I went with a friend of mine. And when we got outside, people were crying in the parking lot. And people kept on saying, I didn't know. I just didn't know. It's definitely worth going and seeing.
It is. I'm glad you called in on this, Joseph, because I was going to ask that question tonight. But, since it was officially released yesterday, I didn't want to do a big call-in show on what people thought about the movie and stuff like that, at least for a couple of days, because it's hard for people to talk about their experiences without... I want to talk about scenes with you right now, but we shouldn't just for at least a couple of days.
No, yeah.
At least for one weekend.
Let people go see it.
Yeah, I want to give people at least a weekend, but I'm glad you called in to at least share your experience. If anybody has calls like that, I'd love to hear the experience end of it. And because I've already seen it, but I would love to go and watch it in a theater. That's amazing that you were able to be around all those. I have to imagine that it was probably easy to strike up a conversation with literally anybody afterwards.
Yeah, everybody I asked them, how'd you find the movie? And everybody said, a friend of mine told me. My son told me I could go see it. And, I didn't say, not one person said, oh, I saw a preview for it or something. They got referred to by somebody else.
That's wonderful. Well, there you go. There's grassroots. That's organic for you. Joseph, thank you for calling in. Happy 4th of July.
Thank you, Frank.
All right, there you go. Joseph. Let's take a call from 406. 406, you're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, this is Bruce Bat Wayne from the chat room.
What's going on, Wayne?
Hey, man, it's a great show. I got to call in one time. You're talking about the attack on the nuclear plant?
Well, it's all there. It's the rumored.
I got to tell you, man, you're talking to a submarine nuclear veteran of the United States. Man, mutual assured destruction is still in effect, and such a thing, might kill a few people downwind, but depending on the prevailing winds, that's not enough to trigger global catastrophe from countries attacking each other with nukes, dude. No. You got to understand the difference. Frank, tactical nukes are just, maybe 1,000 to 3,000 people killed. That's not enough to trigger the death of us all, dude.
Well, what I was talking about was more so provocative incidents. For example, for hundreds of millions of news consumers around the world when they hear that there is a gigantic nuclear power plant that is
Right, dude.
that is
It's very serious. It's a serious situation. You are correct. I just don't go to global nuclear war, dude. It's not going to happen from some small little piece of shit country way far away. You know, that's thousands of miles away from the United States. If Russia does do some tactical shit, false flags, you know, I listen to Alex Jones and shit too. It's just going to be localized, man.
Okay.
Relax.
All right, everybody well, thank you so much for the call, my friend. I'm glad that we had somebody on that kind of specialty calling in to give some information on that. Everybody just relax. It's going to be fine. Now, me, personally, I'm pretty relaxed. Because if we're talking about Terminator 2, Skynet becoming self-aware and determining that humans are the worst threat to global stability and need to be taken out, and everybody gets vaporized at the playground, then I mean, what? We're shadows and dust at that point anyway. So I'm not going to be walking around with that hanging over my shoulder. But at the same time, I think it's pretty good exercise to examine just exactly what we might be getting set up for and what the payoff is, because, you know, there's still a lot of people out there wondering what Russia's main goal in all this is. Are they really on the outside looking in now? And are they really just fighting for independence? Are they playing their role? Are they the WWE heel still? Or have they decided to jump off the bandwagon and avoid catastrophe with the psychopaths in the West and try to push back? I think at the end, depending on what that end is, we're going to get a lot of detail that right now can only be supplemented with speculation. Let's see here. Beverly?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, Bev?
Hey, remember me?
How are you?
I'm good. Hold on a minute. Talking to somebody else right now. Hey, Frank.
Hey, what's up?
Good to talk to you.
Great to have you.
Hey, thanks. I went to the Sound of Freedom here in Glens Falls on Monday night, and I purchased my tickets a few weeks ago and only had the front row, so thank God for reclining seats.
Oh,
but
I know.
Yeah.
That sucks. Whenever you go and because you can go and see all the seating maps for years now. You can peek in on all the seating maps in all these theaters to see what's open, what's not. When all you see is that the front row is open, that sucks, because you're like, okay, how bad do I want to see this movie, and can my neck take it?
Well, I did, and it turned out there were seats. It was sold out, and that was the only seats I could get. And I wanted a friend to go, but I didn't. It was just me. But friends of mine were in the audience, and I just had to say that I'm still tonight. I feel like it's the impact, and I would have to say that it's a great story of love and compassion and triumph and adventure, and it had all those things in it, but the story goes beyond the movie, which is the movement, and which is all the interviews I've watched with Jim and Tim, on all these different platforms, just speaks more volumes than the movie ever could. And so this is a movement, and I'm excited to be a part of it. But I wanted to say, you were talking about the Zelensky, saying that the Russians are, planting this bomb on the, nuclear plant. That's the same playbook as, we are being played every day with, I don't know if I want to call them the Democrats or whatever, where they accuse people of doing what they do. And so, it's like this manipulation of society. And I have to say, after seeing that movie and tonight, and I've been down this rabbit hole for a long time, I'm going to need a good night's sleep and get back to reality, get back to the positivity. So.
Oh, I'm right there with you, Bev, and I certainly need a good night's sleep too. Today I was unusually just wiped out. There's just so much going on, but there is there's a lot in that movie that we'll have to discuss over the coming days, and I just want to give people a little bit more time to see it. And as far as the things with nuclear power plants and all that, and our other caller, just a few calls ago, the nuclear submariner, mutually assured destruction is 100% in play. I mean, it doesn't take much, and that's why I never understood the stockpiling of nuclear warheads and all that stuff beyond, I don't know, a couple each country. It's ridiculous. So really makes you wonder how much is really on the table, and how badly people who aim to rule the world really want to rule over ashes. So we will talk about that in a little bit more. We're going to take a quick intermission. When we come back, your super chats, and then we bring on Jim Lee for these hilarious... This is crazy. You want to talk about crazy? So you have inching us toward a real doomsday scenario, potentially, and then all of the theatrics around absolutely made-up bullshit doomsday scenarios, okay? Scenarios. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
We're now entering, quite frankly.
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 Quite frankly. Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly. Quite frankly.
Quite frankly. Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly.
We all support quite frankly.
Not quite.
Quite frankly.
Let's go, Brandon.
Quite frankly in Roma, Italia.
Quite frankly, you're going on Frank's show tonight?
I want to get a Coke. Can I get a Coke?
So everybody watch, quite frankly, with Frank.
Quite frankly.
How dare you?
Please include your mailing address. So for those of you out there who prefer just throwing a couple of dollars into the open guitar case over here on PayPal every month, make sure that this month you include your mailing address, because we're going to send you the special edition Quite Frankly postcard this July. So that's fun. That's for everybody. Anybody who wants to get in on that. If you're already part of the postcard tiers, though, on the monthly subscriber end, you're getting that anyway. So just letting you know. Stowstube says, Frank, a little blessing for the show. Thank you so much, Stowstube. Hope everyone's 4th was great, and here's to kicking off the week once again after the holiday. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Stowstube. It's so very generous of you, and it was a very nice holiday. It took a long time for the 4th of July to get kicked off this year, though. And there was this constant threat of rain. It drizzled a couple of times throughout the day, but the clouds hung so low and so dark that it looked like it was the skies were about to open up on us at any moment, but it never actually happened. But the humidity, the stickiness because of it was nuts. And it only until about 6 o'clock, 6:30, then the clouds went away and we had that beautiful summer sky come in, and the humidity lifted, and it was really nice. I did a light off fireworks with Matt and Mike and Ant and the guys and all the ladies, and it was fun. But we had you got to watch out for all those fireworks that you buy at CVS or something. Like in the state of Connecticut, you can buy all of these fountains and stuff like that in CVS. They have them in the packages, like, it's called like lemon special or something, a little yellow box, and all the sparks come out, whatever. Well, anyway, I thought they'd be safe enough to do in the street, and most of them were, until we got to this last one. and it literally just exploded. Like, pow. Whole thing exploded. You can't buy those in a pharmacy anywhere in the Northeast. So it was obviously defective. You got to watch out for those. Just make sure you stand back. You have your fun. Later on, we shot off all of our mortars and things like that up at the park later on. Risked arrest. Because that's what you do on 4th of July. You risk arrest. It's the only way that you can show the founding fathers that you are serious about this freedom thing. WitchyPoo22 says, hopefully this is the right place to place my name in the hat for that book. Thank you so much, Witchy. Yes, you are now in the running for the book. And then Hate Losin is in the chat room, gave me a tip. Thank you so much, Hate Losin. Valuna says, throwing my hat in the ring for a chance at your copy of Shoeless Joe and Matt's notes. Well, Valuna, you are in, as well as Hate Losin and Witchy and Stowstube. Well, Stowstube's been in for a while now. We don't have anything going on. We have a wonderful crowd over on Rumble, but no super chats, the Rumble rants that I can see. Sean Joe, thank you. This is on QuiteFrankly.tv. It's Rabbit Hole Wednesday on QuiteFrankly.tv after this, so make sure you stick around. Thank you, Witchy. Witchy Poo's over there as well. Jesse1138. And then a whole bunch of stuff from Witchy Poo. Fleets and ships. Damn. Thank you. Doug Simmy. Robert Sarnes. Porpoiseful. Dragonfly says, I went to see the movie last night. It was very quiet. Very quiet, male-driven, beautiful movie. It was nice. We got to talk more about this. Thank you so much, Dragonfly27. Chai Possum says, Sound of Freedom was heart-wrenching and compelling. We were shocked, sad, and then pissed. And thank you, Sean Joe. I want to take more calls on that at the end of the week. I just want to give everybody a little more time to see it. I wrote a whole bunch of notes down while I was writing it, so I'm ready to go whenever. Okay. Here is the news from across the pond. How crazy is this? King Charles, King Chuck, joins London Mayor Sadiq Khan at launch of National Climate Clock, which warns there are little more than 6 years left for the world to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. King Charles and Sadiq Khan launched a national climate clock in London, which warns that there's just 6 years left for the world to limit global warming. Until what? The King activated the clock during the Climate Innovation Forum at the Guildhall in London today to warn the world that it has just 6 years and 24 days left to limit the heating of the Earth to 1.5 degrees centigrade. The clock also has a built-in renewable energy lifeline. Oh, good. Good. Which shows the percent of global energy coming from renewable sources currently sits at 12.5%. So the percentage of global energy coming from renewable resources currently sits at 12.5%. That means only 12.5% of the entire world is getting their energy needs met by destructive solar and destructive wind and man. Hope that's not the goal, but you know it is. This tracks factors including renewable energy sources, land and inland waters managed by indigenous peoples, climate debt, monies contributed by countries to Green Climate Fund, and gender parity. It's all Agenda 2030 nonsense, and these are all just props in the play. The clock is the latest in a worldwide project which brings together art, science, technology, and grassroots organization to count down to the critical time window in which the globe must reach zero emissions. These are the same people who said that we couldn't go outside until everybody was vaccinated, even though by the time everybody was vaccinated, if they were ever able to get 100% of people to do it, they would all be technically unvaccinated again because they would have to be boosted. They want to get the globe. They must reach zero emissions. They must do it. Look, there's the clock. It's outside. 6 years, 24 days. That was a couple of days ago. So we're in much more dire straits than where we were a couple of days ago. There they are. They pressed the button together, and the world was saved. Is that it? The first was launched in New York in September 2020, and since more would appear in South Korea and Glasgow. To name a few, the Climate Innovation Forum is the flagship event of London Climate Action Week, which brings together 1,500 leaders from government, business, finance, and society to encourage collaboration and innovation to meet climate goals. It's the 5th year that the event has been run. Now, that's crazy in itself. But then we have this. I have 2 more for you. This one, I can't wait to hear what Jim has to say about this. Headline from CNN on June 30th. This was on Friday, so you know I bookmarked it quick. Giant kites could pull cargo ships across the ocean and slash their carbon emissions. Giant kites. We used to call them sailboats. You may have seen kite surfers in action harnessing the power of the wind to pull them over the sea. Now imagine the same concept applied to a 1,000 square meter kite flying 300 meters above the water, only instead of towing a surfer across the waves, it's helping propel a colossal cargo ship across the ocean. That's the basic idea behind the Sea Wing, a technology being developed by French company Airseas, which it says could help cargo ships reduce their fuel consumption and cut their carbon emissions by an average of 20%. 2 engineers at the French aerospace company Airbus came up with the idea in 2016, launching Airseas to further develop the technology. After years of research, they are currently testing the kite on cargo ship traveling between France and the U.S., probably bringing migrants over. Powered predominantly by fossil fuels, the shipping industry accounts for around 3% of global greenhouse gas emissions, according to the International Maritime Organization, which is why there's an urgent need for change. 3%. Urgent need, says Airseas co-founder and CEO Vincent Bernatets. Alternative fuels such as green ammonia are in development, but they are expensive, and Bernatets argues that it will be decades before the infrastructure is in place to develop them at scale. In the meantime, what can we do, he says. That's where we're using wind, and using wind is paramount. While boats have been powered by wind for Bernatets, the combination explains why the power is tremendous for a system that is very compact and simple on the bow of the ship, and can be retrofitted on any ship, not just new ships. So we'll talk about that. Because you want to know something? Jim Lee has talked to us in the past about what ship tracks actually do as far as all of the pollution goes there. So, I mean, he may think that there's something to this. It just kind of looks a little goofy to me, and especially when you think about how over the top everybody is going to the climate nonsense. It just reeks of nonsense. And then there's this. This is from July 3rd. On Monday, White House greenlights research into reflecting sunlight to address climate change. The White House released a research framework last week for a process that would block the sun's rays in order to mitigate some of the adverse effects attributed to climate change. While the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy released its congressionally mandated... I wonder what stripper is heading up the White House Office of Science and Technology. It released its congressionally mandated research plan and an initial research governance framework related to solar radiation modification on Friday. According to the White House, the report identifies critical knowledge gaps and scopes potential research areas that could improve understanding of risks and benefits posed by solar radiation modification. The plan would involve the reflection of sunlight back into space, thereby preventing or delaying additional temperature increases. What are you going to do to reflect it? The process works by employing stratospheric aerosol injections. And marine cloud brightening. Chemtrails. Well, I mean, I guess you can't say chemtrails anymore because they're stratospheric aerosol injections. Don't be a conspiracy theorist, you asshole. Stratospheric aerosol injection is when sulfate particles are released into the atmosphere, where they are able to assist in reflecting sunlight. In marine cloud brightening, salt from the ocean could be used to increase the reflectiveness of the clouds. In releasing the report, the White House emphasized the requirement from Congress and clarified, importantly, this report does not signify any change in policy or activity by the Biden-Harris administration, which remains focused on reducing emissions, increasing resilience, advancing environmental justice, and achieving the true energy security. Release of this report fulfills the congressional mandate. Notably, the possibility of reflecting sun rays echoes the story from The Simpsons in the episode Who Shot Mr. Burns? The town's wealthy owner attempts to block the sun's rays so that citizens will be forced to use nuclear energy from his power plant. The episode aired in 1995. The show has become known for predicting events before they happen. The Biden administration has made climate the chief priority, pledging to reach net zero emissions economy-wide by no later than 2050, which is the absolute, what they hope is the rollout date for all of the 2030 initiatives that they want to have adopted by 2030. That was the whole thing there. 2050. That's why when the 2050 started getting around big time in like 2016, I said, what the hell is this all about? Then we realized, oh, it's just part of the plan. Jim Lee, climateviewer.com. He joins us. It's the first time we've spoken to him in a while, and I can't wait to see what is on his mind. Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Just when you thought it couldn't get any weirder, the White House delivers us the best possible news ever. They opened their mouth and said geoengineering.
Hey, I'm serious. And now I know we can't call it chemtrails anymore, and you might take exception with the terminology and what the difference between all this stuff is, but let's just start from this article and work our way back to the other ones. I mean, they're talking about blocking the sun, and this is going to help us in some way. There's going to be no adverse effects. In fact, it's just going to, I guess it's just like putting us on planetary ICU. What is it?
No, the funniest thing about this is the solar radiation malarkey, is that they said it out loud. That's the difference. Back in 2010, there were 3 different congressional hearings on funding geoengineering solar radiation management, SRM. And then they went and renamed it, which I'm actually in favor of the renaming, because if you go back to the 60s, it was called climate modification. So that's where we started. It was weather modification, climate modification. Then they changed it to geoengineering. Then they changed it to climate engineering. Then they changed it to climate intervention. And in all of those was solar radiation management. He calls it solar radiation modification, which I will now redub solar radiation malarkey. The thing is, they've known, and it's well laid out, Dr. Alan Robach, probably the biggest, at least one of the biggest geoengineers on the planet, laid out back in like at least 15 years ago, 20 reasons why we should never geoengineer. He's now up the list to 27 reasons why it's a bad idea. And chief among those is that, it will change rainfall patterns worldwide. There will be dead people. David Keith said, if we want to do a solar geoengineering program, stratospheric aerosol injection of sulfur like I want to, I'd say we put about 1 million tons a year of sulfur into the stratosphere. And that alone will kill many tens of thousands of people. And I don't take that, idly. I'm serious about that. So at the end of the day, they have been researching. The National Science Foundation is the largest funder of geoengineering research by far. So our government, our tax dollars, are going to studying this no matter what. The only thing that really I find super beneficial is that I have not been able to turn on a channel, go to any political rag on the planet that isn't talking about geoengineering right now. So this, in my opinion, is a net win, at least for me personally, for somebody who's been fighting geoengineering tooth and nail for 15 years, for the White House to put this out with this, weekend at Bernie's president. I said it once, I've said it to my chat, and I'm going to say it to everybody on Quite Frankly. If you get a quote, if you get a clip of Biden being asked about this, I need that clip badly.
Well, it has to be at least a wonderful change of pace for people like yourself, and even people like me and everybody in the audience who like discussing this even in casual ways, where if we go back 10 years or even less than that, to bring this up in any way would be akin to, oh God, I put him in the broom closet. He's talking crazy right now. And now they're not going out, and they're not going as far as admitting to. But the fact that now it is out in the open, we are talking about getting high up into the atmosphere and injecting one solution or another to geoengineer the planet and to do things and to interact with the atmosphere in this way. At least it's all on the table that these operations are ongoing. Now at least when we talk about it, they can't just say that the whole thing is all made up. Now it's just going to be a difference of opinion on how the application of these solutions are put into place and what kind of benefit they're going to give. It sounds over here, this second one over here sounds very nice. What is it? Marine brightening? Tell us about marine brightening over there. That sounds like
marine cloud brightening. It started out a long time ago. We're talking like 2012-ish. They had something called the SPICE project in the UK, Stratospheric Particle Injection for Climate Engineering, and they were talking about dragging a balloon behind a boat and spraying chemicals out of it. The ETC group shut that down. And this is a non-governmental organization. They're an activist group. They shut that down. But then it moved to Pacific Northwest National Labs and a whole bunch of universities, Leeds University and Stephen Salter, John Latham. And they came up with this idea called the Silver Lining Project. And that was later redubbed the Marine Cloud Brightening Project. So if you look it up, it's mcbproject.org or .com, something like that. And of course they would say, this is all just hypothetical, except they're doing the Great Barrier Reef Restoration Project right now, where they've already done multiple studies. They've actually gone out into the ocean and sprayed clouds, with sea salt to make them shinier, whiter, brighter to reflect sunlight. So that's the idea behind marine cloud brightening.
Okay. As far as what they're trying to achieve, you have come on in the past to talk about grand solar minimums, maximums, the phases of the Earth, how climate is so complex that it's impossible to be able to change something for the entire planet, that you can definitely affect regional weather, that you can do things that'll make certain parts of a country a little bit more unpredictable than others, whatever. But when it comes to what they aim to achieve here, you had once concluded, or we had concluded on the end of a conversation about grand solar minimums, that we're going into a natural cooling phase, and that all the stuff that is about to be done, all these programs to help limit carbon emissions and cool the planet down from a dangerous warming trend and all that stuff, is really not going to be doing the trick. It's just going to be the planet going through its natural cycles and them taking credit for something that was always going to happen. But along the way, what kind of adverse effects will this have? I mean, if it's not going to actually cool the planet better than solar activity will, then what could go wrong along the way?
Well, there's a couple different factors rolling around in this. And I mean, it kind of coincides with your clock story. They keep setting these artificial deadlines. You know what I mean? We must hit net zero emissions or we're all going to die. We must hit net zero or the oceans will rise. Well, guess what? I think this latest climate clock coinciding with the solar radiation malarkey coming out of the White House, I've always seen this as, the same thing as Lowell Wood's hydrogen bomb. The weapon that was so big that it was never to be used. It's almost like a threat. Does that make sense? That geoengineering is more of a threat to, as Larry Fink would say, change people's behavior.
Yeah.
You must force behavior. So I think that geoengineering, at least in the discussions that I've always, read, from Ken Caldera, David Keith, Bill Gates, these people, they're more of a threat, to get people to comply with this green narrative, this, false green narrative that, renewable energy is, the only solution and that we should stop using fossil fuel at the detriment of our economy, of, everything. You said bring up whatever. So I'm going to bring up whatever. They even right now, it's like, I think it was June 26th. They just came out with a new science paper that we've been pumping so much fresh water out of the ground that we've tilted Earth's axis.
What?
Look it up, dude. Look it up. You can't make this stuff up. So now it's pumping, and I'll tell you the title of it. I got up here on the screen. Drift of Earth's pole confirms groundwater depletion as a significant contributor to global sea level rise 1993 to 2010.
What? Really?
Yeah, it's a whole ass thing. Groundwater extraction shifted Earth's axis, new study says. And their summary here is that where was it? It was like I think it was 4 centimeters per year the North Pole shifted because we were pumping water out of the ground,
right?
And then it ends up in the ocean, and that has changed. So they're always going to come up with these new, explanations for things they can't freaking understand. Okay. And they're going to say, oh, well, it must be now that we're pumping so much water out of the ground. Well, guess what? They're going to blame farmers and shit for that. You wait, that'll be the new thing. Well, we got to have less large farms, which means less food. Forget fracking that they're pumping billions of gallons back into the ground. But anyway, they're always coming up with these crazy ass ideas to explain, really complex phenomena that they don't really want to say, but we know it actually has more to do with magnetism and the solar, interaction with celestial bodies, this sort of stuff. So with the solar minimum, on its way, progressing as, you mentioned, yeah, they want to take credit for it. They want to get ahead of this. I mean, why wouldn't you? So let's set a clock 6 years from now. And I mean, am I wrong? But didn't they say 6 years ago that we'd all be dead by now?
Well, I think it was that Greta girl. She just had to delete I think maybe either she deleted it or somebody dug it up again to show that, hey, we were supposed to be dead, I think, a couple of months ago. That was the line. And the other thing to hear, too, Jim, I want to ask you, since it's pretty much in the same ballpark, when everybody talks about net zero, we want to go carbon neutral, net zero. What does net zero mean for survival of our way of life as it is right now? I mean, if it is possible to hit carbon neutrality or net, first of all, what is the goal for net zero? Because I don't know. I just know if they're setting the term, it is probably completely out of the scope of what's possible, and we would have to really start taking a big hit in our quality of life. So what is net zero, the goal? How is it measured? And if it's possible to actually hit it, how many
not
people?
Possible to hit it. The goal is even the term is like a trick, because what does net mean? Net, I mean, for you have to do your budget at the end of the year. You got to pay the tax, man. You know what net means. There's net, there's gross, and then there's income. So net zero actually means that in total net, you have a zero emission. So if you are emitting, you got to figure out some way to mitigate that. Well, how do I offset that? That's the whole idea behind carbon taxes, carbon credits.
To the point that you're not emitting any carbon dioxide ever for anything?
If you're not at zero emissions, which obviously like Amazon, Google, YouTube, anybody who owns a server farm, your ass is never going to be on 100% renewable energy. I mean, supercomputers get server farms. They only require more and more power every freaking year because they're supercomputers. Okay. So what are we going to do? We're going to wind power YouTube? No, we're not. So what is YouTube going to do to make sure that they're net zero?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to buy the hell out of some credits. It's a scam. It's always been a scam. The same is true with the airline industry, even more so. If you look this one up right now, this will blow your freaking mind. Non-CO2 emissions from aircraft. Just put that in. Non-CO2 emissions from aircraft. And what they're finally admitting is what I said in 2015 when I went to Washington, D.C., and I spoke in front of the United States EPA on flight pollution, that clouds made by planes heat the planet more than all of the greenhouse gases coming out of jets. So there's a fundamental disconnect between net zero and, oops, we're making plane farts that make clouds, and those clouds are more damaging to the climate and the ozone layer and all of these things. So is it about CO2? Because they say it's about CO2. The problem is the airline industry cannot buy their way out of this. So now they're in full-fledged panic mode where they have to try to find some way to offset the climate warming that's now been attributed to their contrails turning into cirrus clouds. That's why you see with the ships with their stupid parasails. I mean, we're literally going to have Chinese pirates setting sail for the local American Walmart. Let's go deliver some plastic shite. With big fucking sails. I mean, this is the solution. The backstory on that.
Wait, did you hear the science behind what makes it supercharged?
The figure eight?
Yeah.
Because it figure eights. Anybody who's ever tried a parasail kite on a beach knows it does a figure eight. I mean, come on. You've never had a parasail went out there trying to work that son of a bitch, and it's just, and you're like, any minute I'm gonna kill somebody on the beach. Duh. That's the level of dumb on this is just astronomical. But you have to realize why it's reached this level of dumb. You mentioned that I've talked about ship tracks in the past. For those who don't know what ship tracks are, they used to burn what's called bunker fuel or heavy fuel oil. This created large smokestacks, that turned into clouds. They were called marine stratocumulus clouds. Basically, they were chemtrails of the open sea, except they were typically 50 to 100 miles wide and, thousands of miles long. MIT University said basically ship tracks are cooling the ocean and that we need to keep that sulfur emission. Again, the word sulfur, it's always about the sulfur. Add sulfur to the fuel so that we can cool the planet. Add it to the planes, add it to the boats. But then the what is it? International Maritime Organization or something like that, they banned bunker fuel back in 2020. So this is why that you're seeing all this craziness with the talk about international shipping. So they switched from being allowed to use bunker fuel to something called Frankenstein fuel. If you look this one up, it'll mess you really up. But it's called VLSFO, or very low sulfur fuel oil. And the climate engineers, the geoengineers, are super pissed about it because before, basically the shipping industry was putting so much sulfur into the sky that they could actually say, hey, this is actually cooling the Pacific Ocean. But since they banned bunker fuel and now they're switching to alternative maritime, like you heard about the green ammonia.
Yeah.
These are biofuels. Okay. So this new Frankenstein fuel has apparently, like, you know, had ships catch on fire. There have been all kinds of issues with the Frankenstein fuel. So now they're trying to justify to the shipping industry, which is justifiably pissed off, that they can't run their dirty bunker fuel anymore, because bunker fuel is basically bottom of the barrel, the least refined type of fuel that they could possibly buy, which means less refining, closer to actual oil extracted from the ground, cheaper. Okay. So by taking away their bunker fuel, now all of a sudden they got to pay more money to ship their crap across the Pacific Ocean, which has got them hella mad. And here along comes a guy who goes, hey, but kites. I could save you a couple bucks on this really expensive gas that we're going to grow in either, you know, a laboratory or on a cornfield. That's the kind of crap that, you know, they talk about Jatropha plants, camelina plants. These are oilseed crops. They talk about something called the Fischer-Tropsch process, which is like landfill waste to jet fuel or to obviously, shipping fuel oil. They're coming up with all these alternative fuels right now. They're all, if you lump them all into a group, they're called biofuels. And the biofuels for contrail control is one issue. And then there's the shipping with the VLSFO, Frankenstein fuel. Yeah, they're messing with everything. And all of this is for this new Green Deal agenda, this Agenda 2030, which coincidentally, it's 2023 plus 6, that's 2029. That's right in time for 2030, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. In a couple of days too. But you've talked about how this is interesting, or it is a real danger to the ecosystem in the Pacific Ocean and elsewhere, these ship tracks. How would you counter something like that? Obviously, people are wondering what's going on. They talk about over here it being 3% of the world's pollution. The climate clock thing has a meter of renewable energies around the world of only being 12.5%. So that makes you wonder, oh, wow, they're going to, how what do they have to do to get that up to 50? So there's all these things, these marginal, percentages of pollution going on out there. But you've expressed pretty serious concern about how our oceans are polluted by shipping. So what would be a better way of mitigating this without going to these silly images in our heads of kites pulling gigantic shipping containers?
My solution would be decentralize all the things. Stop relying on world trade and build it near your house. In fact, I can see a time in the not too distant future where, much like the Starship Enterprise, where you literally say something to a computer, you reach your hand in a hole and there's a whole plate of cooked food. With 3D printing technology, with the advance in artificial intelligence, with the advancement of all of these, literally being able to create things at a molecular level, there is no reason for us to rely on a foreign nation that, if given the chance, would supplant us in a second. That wants to, that has been in cyber war, stealing our intellectual property, doing everything they can, short of shooting bullets. China hates our guts. So why are we propping them up? Why was Hillary Clinton trying to sign a trans-Pacific partnership with these bastards that want to destroy our country? My solution would be, what we called victory gardens in World War II. That every single neighborhood should be self-sufficient. The closer we can get to being self-sufficient on a local basis, the better the entire world and the system works. Because if there's a breakdown in one location, guess what? there's 999,000 extras around that are fully self-sustainable. If we really want to throw the sustainable word around, we're not going to say, well, renewable energy is sustainable energy, because anybody who's ever seen a hailstorm over a solar, park realize that shit ain't sustainable, nor is it recyclable. Same thing with the wind farms. The blades, you cannot recycle them. They are literally taking these things, and for those who haven't actually seen a windmill blade, these things are huge. We're talking. They're like like 2 football fields long in some cases. And they are literally, they have a lifespan on them, and then the only thing they can do with them is just bury them in the ground. This is nuclear all over again. Okay, so it takes so many rare earth metals, all of which provided to you by China. China's racing around the globe, buying up every square inch of land that has rare earth minerals on it. And what, we're supposed to base our entire economy on, rare earth minerals coming from China to make these solar panels that you cannot recycle, that are more poisonous, actually hurt what I consider climate change. When I think of climate change, I think of what it was called before. It was called global warming, and climate change is called pollution. I care about pollution of the air, pollution of the water, pollution of the ground. So if we're going to end up coming up with a solution to power our world that isn't fossil fuel, which also is just a stupid freaking term, which isn't, oil or gas coming out of the ground, then it damn sure better be something that doesn't create more waste that lives forever, like nuclear waste, which is what windmill farms and solar farms do. So there is no sustainability to this. To achieve their net zero goals, they will literally have to, destroy all of the systems that have made America rich and powerful. Make it to where I'll give you a preview of what your future is, called the yellow vest movement. You know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
For those who haven't seen the yellow vest movement in France with Macron, and they tried to jack up the gas prices too high, and then suddenly these yellow vesters were out there burning the city to the fucking ground. Now, I don't know what it's going to take for Americans to get pissed off enough to push back on this, net zero climate agenda, the greenwashing of America. But I'm pretty sure that the threat of blocking out the sun, while, it's being mocked, on every single channel, it also coincides with the July 4th weekend. Every single radio broadcaster is on break for the whole damn week. Every single television show commentator is on break for the whole damn week. So I'm curious if the Dan Bonginos and the, Sean Hannitys and all of these guys, when they get their ass back to work the following Monday, will this even still be a story? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
They released it late Friday night. And by then, everybody was on break. And I even caught a Greg Gutfeld, little snippet on this. And Tom Shalhoub was sitting in for him. And I'm sitting there just brushing my teeth, getting ready to go to bed. I threw on the TV just so there was some noise. And then suddenly I hear Tom Shalhoub, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And he's sitting there with the usual cast, plus a black guy from YouTube. And guess what? The dude from YouTube literally went through my damn website. He's like, yeah, man, they did this back in the 1960s and 70s with Operation Popeye with Henry Kissinger. And I was just like, oh shit, this dude made everybody's eyes almost pop out of their head. I was like, whoa, too much information for Fox News now, man. You're really flying off the deep end here, brother, man. But yeah, it's insane that it's actually in the discussion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson was the first one to really, in the mainstream media, start talking about geoengineering. What I don't understand for all of, at least for people on the right who, are into politics, like, you got to use things as a weapon. And I can't think of a better weapon to push back against this new Green Deal, Agenda 2030, climate alarmism than these motherfuckers are going to block out the sun. And they're serious.
I know. I mean, and this is just the only the most reasonable. Reasonably technologically attainable one. I feel like the last couple times you came on, we were hearing about all these other I don't know, these proposed ideas about putting big plastic sheets of bubbles at a Lagrange point between the Earth and the sun and the space, and they just want to be able to just put things between us, like to actually put sunglasses on the Earth or something like that.
The first guy who was on, the first commenter on the Greg Gutfeld show that he went to was a Army sergeant. And he was like, why wouldn't they just put something out in space instead of messing with the weather? And I'm like, dude, they've talked about that, seriously, they have come up with every possible idea, including there's another one, ICE 911. This is another actual geoengineering project going on where they want to cover the entire Arctic with tiny little hollow glass balls. You can't. It just gets crazier. But they have ocean brightening where they put micro bubbles in the surface of the ocean. Like, how are you gonna blow a bunch of bubbles in the ocean? Well, I guess you're gonna blow through all the plastic that's causing the evaporation and the whole water cycle to be screwed up. We won't deal with the plastic in the ocean. But damn it, we need to get to net zero as soon as possible.
You see, and that's the other thing for most people who just pay attention just casually to all this stuff. If you know the reality of how major, gigantic countries in Asia pollute and how
they dwarf us.
Yeah,
India and China dwarf all the pollution pretty much of the rest of the planet.
See, that's what I'm talking about. When you have India and China out there who you think that if they felt like they were going to die, they have to take it upon themselves, and we all have to. So it's either like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said a couple of years ago, that this is our generation's World War II. If that is exactly what this is, then we need to invade India and China for the sake of saving the world, but we're not going to do that. So what I don't understand, what other people don't understand, is if these two major countries that are the size of continents pretty much are really providing the world most of its pollution, then why the hell are we slicing our throats to try to lower 3% of something that is given up over the course of shipping something, across the sea, or killing our domestic economy to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars for something that would just merely be symbolic in nature, and nobody's going to follow suit. The Chinese don't give a shit. India's taking care of their own business. It's just it gets back to what you were saying before about centralization and decentralization. It's obvious here. Like when I open up the show tonight, I was talking about this article from the Associated Press about how political polarization throughout the states is becoming greater, that liberals are seeking out bluer states and conservatives are fleeing to red states. And I said, that's fine as long as the central power is dismantled, because for everybody to do their own thing and to start thinking locally and then dealing with neighboring states and neighboring countries on a level of what is mutually beneficial to each other, then all of a sudden there will be a great calming of minds here, and it's the best, most peaceful thing anybody can order up for our union. What you're talking about right there is the best, most peaceful, non-disruptive. It takes some time for everybody to start sourcing the stuff that they're getting internationally. Locally, again, it would take a transition there. But as far as what we can do going forward,
we also have to remember that the Civil War was largely about the industrialization of the North versus the agriculture of the South. So you run into this slippery slope where if the tribes truly do divide, and we have completely dark blue and bright red freaking states. And even in this decentralized world that I'm envisioning, there are going to be certain things you just can't do here. Okay. Like there are things I cannot do in South Carolina. I can't grow them unless we do it all hydroponically and we're building 40-story buildings. They do this in China where, it's just literally like floor after floor of hydroponics with, industrial lighting inside, like you'd grow your reefer back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm sure they do it now. There are going to be things that you're going to have to source outside of your state. So there will still have to be trade. But you want to keep that trade, as to a minimum as possible so that really the only, transportation going on is for recreational or business purposes, like minimal, not, massive trucks and trucker. I mean, I'm not hating on truckers, but, ideally we wouldn't have any truckers. We wouldn't have any, international ships. We wouldn't need them if we were able to just build it here locally. Every single state, every single city has a small one. Every state has a very large one, facility for making all the things. Right now, I'm on prescriptions for my thyroid, and the fucking Walmart can't keep them in stock.
Yeah.
I mean, literally everything is made in China.
I know.
Everything. When are we going to wake up? Because when they cut the cord, they released I'm just going to say it. They released a bioweapon on the whole damn world. Guess what we got? We got injections. They're releasing all this pollution on the world and selling us the technology to green ourselves into financial oblivion. And what are we going to get? Stratospheric injections. Now, geoengineering does not have to be taken by the United Nations. It doesn't have to be a United States thing. China could decide to geoengineer, and that's what the Council on Foreign Relations warned of in 2010, unilateral global scale geoengineering, or what they would refer to as rogue geoengineering, without the agreements of other countries, that one country, one individual could geoengineer the entire planet. The problem with that is, as the CIA, same guy mentioned earlier, 27 reasons why geoengineering is a bad idea. Alan Robach, the CIA called him up and they said, if another country was geoengineering over America, would we know it? And Alan Robach's answer was, I think so. Diane Seidel at the American Meteorological Society's annual meeting, she said that interannual albedo variability dictates that even with the best scientific sensors on the planet, we cannot tell the difference between man-made geoengineering and just God did it, or climate change, or the sun did it. We don't know. So just to be clear, China could be geoengineering right now. China could be putting out all this pollution and going, you know what? And we're going to geoengineer, because guess what? They're covering the entire Himalayas and hundreds of thousands of cloud seeding generators. And that the ETC group and James Roger Fleming, top historian on the planet, I tweeted him and I said, hey, when you're doing this much cloud seeding on this large scale, we talked about, when I interviewed him, we talked about the butterfly effect. He said this would be more like a Mothra effect, that China is doing such a large scale weather modification on the Tibetan plateau that technology could be easily converted to, or even considered, geoengineering, because it's going to change weather patterns on a worldwide basis and could be used to cool the planet, like solar radiation malarkey that the Biden White House is talking about. So China could literally just with the flip of a finger, because they own every business in China. There are no private businesses. They're all PLC controlled, right? They could just at the moment's notice flip a switch and say, all right, go dump some stuff in the stratosphere, and the whole world would be none the wiser. We wouldn't even know.
So
and the scary part about it is if one volcano goes off in the middle of this, let alone 3, 4, 5, we could be in a freaking ice age.
Why is that?
Because once you've started that cooling process, once you build up aerosols in the stratosphere, they have a residence time or a lifetime of typically 2 to even 5 years. So if you spray the kind of chemicals that they're talking about, sulfur, titanium, aluminum, calcium, even diamond dust has been discussed, that if they spray these chemicals in the stratosphere, they will stay up there for 2 to 5 years. During that 2 to 5 years, you have to consistently be putting it back in. Otherwise, there will be what's called a rebound effect. Seth Baum actually came up with, Seth Baum, B-A-U-M, wrote a paper called The Double Catastrophe Theory Scenario. And in it, we've started, there's climate change, according to him, and then we start geoengineering, but then something happens to disrupt that, like World War III or like a Carrington event, something screws up the process. So we're not able to continue geoengineering. Now we have a rebound effect where the earth rapidly warms, or let's say, because there's less solar activity, there's more seismic activity during less solar activity. So when there's less sunspots, there's actually more earthquakes. That could lead to an increase in volcanic activity. God forbid, like we have one of these, Mount Pinatubo was the one that basically geoengineering's modeled on, is the fact that in 1991, that one volcano cooled the planet by several degrees. And they said, well, why don't we do that? Let's mimic volcanoes and spray chemicals in the stratosphere, stratospheric aerosol injection, solar radiation management, or modification as they're calling. If you do that and then volcanoes pop off, you've set the thermostat already. You set the thermostat to -2 degrees Celsius. Along comes 4 volcanoes, each of which can set the thermostat another, 1 to 5 degrees Celsius lower. And you've got a 2 to 5 year window before, even if you stop this second, you got 2 to 5 years before those chemicals are going to rain out. That's the scariest part of all of this.
I can see what you're building up there. It really is. It really is nuts. And again, it makes you wonder if this is really all about saving the planet. That people feel like this is about saving lives and saving the planet. Then why are they going to do such foolhardy experiments and engineering projects to the planet itself instead of just really trying to express to real polluters around the world exactly what is at stake here? I just don't get how shooting yourself in the head makes the process any better.
It's shooting yourself in the head to make a headache go away.
Yeah,
I mean that's literally where we're at. I believe for my children's future, and the only possible scenario for this to work out is that let them go on with their climate cult. Let them go ahead and worship at the altar of Chinese-made renewable energy. But take geoengineering off the table. Because if not, we're literally in a scenario that this is just like, Oppenheimer all over again. Once you crack that bottle, you cannot put the genie back in. Once they actually, come up with enough tests, outdoor experiments, like David Keith wants to do with his SCOPEX, stratospheric controlled perturbation experiment, which is Harvard's solar geoengineering program. If they actually get enough data together to make a strong enough case to overcome the Convention for Biological Diversity's 2010 ban on geoengineering, to overcome Mexico's ban on geoengineering because Make Sunsets was throwing balloons in the air the other day. Once they come up with enough scientific justification for the necessity for geoengineering, just like Trump did. They backed him into a corner and they said, look, fucking computer models, dude, 2 million dead. You're going to let that happen on your watch? You're going to be to blame. The technocrats will use their, digital wizardry, their made up math. They'll come up with charts. They'll use their appeal to authority. They will move politicians and they will get what they want. And in the end, the goal is control of all resources on the planet. Human resources, water resources, energy resources, control. From the digital currency to the, being able to spy on everything through the power grid, to you not even being able to, feed yourself without your social credit. It's all about control, in my personal opinion. They'll come up with some way to say your household is not climate friendly, and they're already doing it. I get mails here in South Carolina all the time from Duke Energy saying, "Hey, put a smart meter in your house. We'll do it for fucking free." Like, a smart thermostat. Except that whenever the power grid is being used too heavily, they'll just cut your AC off for like 2 or 3 hours during the middle of the day.
Yeah.
You want that kind of control in your own house?
It's already that already happens. We talk about it. It already happens in foreign countries, and sometimes they'll give the excuse that it's just brownouts because they're overloading. But what they're really just doing is making sure that people expect less of this being available to them for just basic creature comforts. But Jim, I knew that this was going to be a good one, and I'm glad that we were able to make such good time in the second half of the show. I've got to take off right now. Where are you going to be? You've been live a lot more lately. You're still on YouTube, but tell everybody where to find you and how often you go live.
So I've been doing a call-in show every Sunday at Climate Viewer on YouTube. I want to be a big boy one day with like Frank and stream to all the things. So I'm going to be working that out in the near future. But currently, if you go to connect.climateviewer.com, you can find all my things. I've almost completed connecting climateviewer.com and weathermodificationhistory.com into one website. It should be live in the next week or two. It is fucking gorgeous.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, you talk about a heavy lift.
We've been waiting for this.
Oh, it's going to be so friggin' epic.
I can't wait.
Showing it off.
I can't wait to get rid of the second, because I have so many of your links. I can't wait to get rid of a link in my bookmarks folder.
I'm going to be able, and the long-term goal is maybe even getting the maps in there too, so that I literally just have to say climateviewer.com and that's it.
That's
just
it.
one. And then all I do is just kick out videos all the time after that. But you gotta build it. If you build it, they will come. So I'm going to continue building it. But yeah, I'm doing a live show every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And it's a call-in show. It's a Ask Me Anything. Anything goes. Doesn't have to be climate or geoengineering related. Your brother Willie Fixit calls me up just for shits and giggles. Nikki from the chat's always there. We have a good old time, and then randomly through the week, but I'm typically going to be doing, I try not to step on the toes of the great one. So I put my videos out at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Well, I always told you, Jim, if we can work something out together, there's one night a week that you go live at 9 p.m. You can just go after me, and I'll give you the stream key for the network platform, and you go live on the Pilled with us, and it'll be like, we're filling up now. We're starting to fill up time slots on the network. That would be great for live interactive programming. So you just
I definitely want to hook that up. I don't know, because you got an older version of OBS and you got the plug-in, and I'm on the plug-in to multi-stream.
That wouldn't work. That wouldn't be the issue. I just give you the stream key, and
well, I'm on Streamlabs OBS.
It wouldn't be a problem.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that later for sure, because I want to be able to stream on, because I have a D-Lab, I have a Twitch, I have all of these others that I stopped streaming to, because basically like the Streamlabs setup, they wanted me to pay a whole bunch of extra money for it. Yeah. And before I was on Restream like you were back in the day, until we found out that it was owned by a bunch of Ukrainians who like this, who could literally shut you off at any moment. But yeah.
Well, hey,
anyway, I know you got calls to take, brother, man. I appreciate you having me on, and this is definitely my cup of tea. You know, I want to hear somebody ask somebody with some gonads, catch Biden off guard, which he always is, and ask him, hey, you know, the thing you said the other day about the geoengineering solar radiation malarkey, could you explain that? And I'm sure that the answer will be priceless.
I would love that. I would love for somebody to do that. I would love for you to be in at the White House and say something like that. It really would be great. A clip that we would cherish forever. But we don't have time for calls, Jim, because we're just going to be ending the show tonight. And I hope everybody goes to climb.
We did run late.
No, we started in the second half. You usually come on at 7:30, and then I'm able to stretch it out a bit. But that's just the way things worked out. It doesn't matter. Next time we'll do it different. But climateviewer.com. Thanks for everything, my friend. We'll talk soon.
I appreciate it, Frank. Love you, meaner brother.
All right, love you too, Jimlin. There you go. Jimlin Lee just left. He's a polite Southern gentleman, as you know. Let me go into my super chats. Just make sure that we're all good. Thank you, Doug Simi. Thank you so much. Over on Rumble Rants, Cody117 says, how bad is Sound of Freedom compared to Passion of the Christ? I don't cry from movies, but The Passion made me cry like a baby. Not ever trying to do that again, at least in front of anyone. I mean, it'll get you emotional, well, only because it's children that are the targets here, and they're the victims. They're also those who are being rescued, and when you know that this is all very real, and this is a campfire way of telling people about the how the world is and what we need to do to stop. It's more of a rage, like I think of Aurora now because I'm a father, and that's just it takes you to another place mentally. So Passion of the Christ was really rough as well. But again, it's the Passion, the Stations of the Cross, the crucifixion. I mean, that is all, and then it's the cutaway. It's not just the brutality and all that stuff that is grating, or I should say, just shocks you with Passion of the Christ. It's all the cutaways. It's the cutaways to Jesus's ministry, and especially the mother-son story with the Blessed Mother. The mother-son story in Passion of the Christ would get anybody. Just that Mary still needing to be the mother, wanting to pick him up when he falls, things like that. That is what really crushes you. At least crushed me back in 2005 or whenever it came out. So it's different. It's obviously different because the subject matter is different, but it'll get you emotional. But I think it's more so in like a focused. There's outrage you feel, there's heartbreak for sure, but there's a focused rage, a righteous but the whole thing there is how do you take that with you and make it last? What do you do to make this more than just, oh yeah, I saw Sound of Freedom when it came out? I ask myself that question too. I don't, because it's ongoing. What do we do? So we're looking into that, seeing who we can bring on to interview, and what good organizations there are out there, and what we can be a part of as a viewing audience, and whatever else. But we'll have some calls on this coming in, maybe on Friday night. I think Matt will be in here on Friday night. We'll be chilling out, and on Friday we can take some calls on your experience with the movie and whatever else pops up along the way. All right. That's all we got. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for all the people who contributed tonight on the Super Chats, and we will see you tomorrow. We have a wonderful guest coming in tomorrow night. It'll be a good for the soul, and I'm going to want to ask you all about your personal travel experiences in this country and elsewhere. What is the most beautiful sights in the planet even if it's in your backyard, that nothing has ever trumped the beauty of a waterfall in your backyard or a babbling brook through, your some kind of property that you have with the woods and the peace and whatever the hell it is. I want to see the most beautiful place that you have laid your eyes on here in God's good earth. That's going to be part of our talks tomorrow with our guest. And for tonight, if there's anything that you wanted to say that you didn't have time to get in on, then email me at quitefranklypodcast@gmail.com. I can't wait to hear from you, and I will see you in the chat room on quitefrankly.tv as Rabbit Hole Wednesday is about to kick off. Let me see. Did I get any production notes on that? Let me see. Tonight's Rabbit Hole Wednesday: Freud, Bernays, public relations, propaganda, social engineering, and the not-so-recent history of American mass mind control. The epic 4-hour documentary series, The Century of Self. Right after the show, only at quitefrankly.tv. That's from Abe. So you want to talk about rabbit holes, going into a deep one. And I'll be dropping in on you, so stick around, and I'll see you soon. Thank you again to Jim Lee and everybody else in the audience. We'll see you tomorrow.
I'll catch you on the flip side.